Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most challenging video games that adopted the infamous subgenre made popular by FromSoftware. We won't be including the likes of Bloodborne, Elden Ring, or Sekiro here, since while they're outside the mainstream Souls games, they're still made by FromSoft, so no dice. Number 10. Star Wars Jedi: Fallen Order.
I recognize that stance. Perhaps you've had some training after all. Who was your master, Padawan?
Nobody said fighting against the Empire would be easy. As a runaway Padawan who severed their connection to the Force, Cal Kestis is far weaker than your average Jedi, which means that battling against other Force users, droids, and stormtroopers isn't going to be a walk in the park. While Cal does eventually relearn a few of his old tricks, the combat here isn't for younglings, especially when it comes to the Inquisitors as well as the massive creatures occupying alien worlds. Trust in the Force and the timing of your dodges, and you just might survive. Number 9. Mortal Shell. You couldn't ask for a more blatant love letter to Dark Souls, but even still, this is far from a carbon copy thanks to a few features that allowed Mortal Shell to keep its head above its millions of contemporaries. While most enemy strikes can end you, the game's hardened mechanic along with the gameplay loop of switching between 4 different corpses, and consequently switching stats and weapon builds, keeps things fresh and not completely one-sided. Don't think it will be enough to save you all the time though. Number 8. Hollow Knight. While it may be more of a Metroidvania, there's still some Souls-like baked into the bones of this modern masterpiece, namely having to regain your shadow self upon death or risk losing all you have accumulated should you perish a second time. Even if you ignore the platforming challenges, the variety of enemies and bosses that can crush you is numerous. Even the most seasoned of Souls players will find themselves humbled by the likes of the radiance of Nightmare King Grim. The only thing more difficult is the wait for Silksong. Number 7. The Surge 2. Nobody said that Soulslike had to be limited to fantasy. Sci-fi makes just as much of a potent playmate, especially if you occupy it with unforgiving AI that decides humanity is better off dead. The name of the game here is limb dismemberment, ripping and tearing the ligaments off your mechanical foes in order to craft better weapons and improve your own defenses. That, and making sure you master the parry mechanic as soon as possible. Or at least know where the nearest medbay is, because you are going to make frequent visits if you want to make it to the endgame. Number 6. Lords of the Fallen. Taking another stab at the Soul scene, this reimagining of one of the first Souls-likes is about as punishing as you would expect, and not always in the fun way. But if you want overwhelming odds with a narrow chance of victory, then this is the one for you. Monsters hiding in places you'd never expect, insta-kill traps, even enemies waiting to leap out and send your character to the Shadow Realm with one bite. That's not even a joke. You have to traverse the realm of the dead in order to make it back to the land of the living, and as you might have guessed, both dimensions feature all kinds of abominations waiting to snuff you out. Number 5. Remnant II. Turns out that Souls-likes with guns is possible, and when polished to a degree such as this, it can make for an incredible gaming experience, just as long as you know that having a rifle on hand doesn't mean you're going to have an easier time. With procedurally generated levels, co-op options, and a setting that blends the fantastical with the futuristic, there's a lot to love here. As you'd expect, your loadout is everything, so unless you're willing to adapt on the fly or use your friends as meat shields, then Remnant will chew you up and spit you out all the same. Number 4. Blasphemous. In the same vein as Hollow Knight, Blasphemous leans more into its Metroidvania heritage. But trust us, after a single session as the Penitent One slicing his way through a cursed land filled with monsters inspired by Catholic iconography and the Spanish Inquisition, you'll be drowning in Souls vibes. The size of the bosses, the limited range of your sword, the never-ending spike pits, this game is a gauntlet that will constantly have you backtracking to reclaim your departed spirit, all to have another crack at that one enemy too fast for you to parry against. The sequel is also amazing, but the hardest challenge is undoubtedly found in the original outing. Number 3. Lies of P. It's the Souls-like that could, defying all expectations and giving us the closest thing to a Bloodborne sequel we are likely ever going to get. Pairing the dark literary origins of Pinocchio with a world filled with titanic puppets that have gone on a murderous rampage, the game pulls no punches with enemy variety, the lethality of its stages, and especially with its bosses. Learning to become a parry god is a trial by fire, but a wholly rewarding one, especially given the amount of weapons and customization options the game throws our way. There's a reason why this became so beloved overnight. Number 2. Wo Long, Fallen Dynasty. When a game's opening boss is so difficult that it makes headlines and causes droves of players to quit outright, you know you're in for a rough time. Team Ninja's particular blend of unforgiving bosses and rapid-fire combat lent themselves a little too well to their take on a Chinese fantasy epic, one that saw players combating historical figures along with mythological monsters everywhere they went. Even if you pour experience points into your character, even if you try and spam your divine beast, you'd best prepare for a lot of game overs, because unless you become very cozy with the deflect mechanic, you aren't going to get very far. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Nioh 2. Team Ninja strikes again, and this time they gave us a sequel to an already ridiculously challenging title, only now with infinitely more ways to get your ass handed to you. Countering burst attacks, avoiding the miasma it leaves behind, changing stances, knowing when to unleash chi pulses, all the while dealing with bosses who will run you into the ground given the savagery of their movesets. It will chew you up and spit you out on more than one occasion. It's a Souls-like that can easily match the unforgiving nature of FromSoft's best, while being a merciless beast with its own style. At least in the amount of ways it can get you to rage quit. Which of these Souls-likes drove you to a breaking point? Let us know in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.